The moment I heard that Kate Mansi had already finished filming back in April, I'm not going to lie, guys, my stomach kind of dropped. Because if you've watched General Hospital long enough like we have, then you already know what usually happens when an actor quietly wraps filming weeks before fans even notice. It almost never leads to something small. And now every single scene we're still seeing from Christina, those are apparently pre-taped scenes. That means the countdown already started without most viewers realizing it. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more it feels like the writers are hiding something huge behind this exit. Because let's be real here. Christina is not some side character the show can casually ignore. She's connected to Sonny, Alexis, Molly, Rick, Blaze, and now even this growing chaos surrounding Sidwell and Cullum. So if Mansi really walked away from GH for good, then the writers almost have no choice but to create a massive emotional fallout to explain why Christina suddenly disappears from Port Charles. And if you ask me, I don't think this is heading toward a peaceful goodbye. I know some fans are holding on to hope that Lexie could return and reclaim the role that made so many viewers fall in love with Christina in the first place. And honestly, I completely understand why. Lexie's version of Christina had this emotional vulnerability mixed with unpredictability that always made scenes feel real. There was something raw about her performance that connected deeply with longtime viewers. So yes, if Lexie suddenly walked back into GH tomorrow, I honestly think most fans would celebrate immediately. But here's the problem that keeps bothering me. There's been absolutely no real indication that Lexie is returning, and that silence feels loud. Because usually when soaps plan a popular recast return, little hints start leaking out. Rumors spread. Insider chatter starts building. But this time, nothing. Which makes me wonder if the role may actually be heading into temporary retirement instead. And if that happens, then the writers need a dramatic reason to remove Christina from the canvas. That's where things start getting dark. One possibility that feels very believable to me is the idea that Christina ends up seriously injured during an emotional explosion involving Molly. And honestly, guys, the setup is already there. Molly is dangerously close to learning the full truth about Rick being imprisoned in that basement. Once she realizes that Christina, Alexis, and Ava all played roles in keeping her father captive, everything could spiral instantly. Because from Molly's perspective, this goes beyond betrayal. This becomes personal. And the ugly truth is, Molly has always tried to be the rational one, the controlled one. But what happens when the people she trusted become the people who violated her family? That kind of emotional damage changes people, especially when Rick is involved. I keep imagining this confrontation building slowly. At first, maybe it's just accusations, tears, rage, Christina trying to justify herself, Alexis trying to calm things down, but then maybe Molly snaps harder than anyone expects. Maybe years of resentment suddenly explode all at once. And if physical violence enters the situation, even for a moment, that could completely change everything. Because soaps love tragic accidents. All it takes is one shove, one fall, one terrible second nobody can take back. And suddenly, Christina is unconscious, maybe slipping into a coma while Molly stands there horrified, realizing her anger may have destroyed her own sister. Honestly, that scenario feels very possible to me because it gives GH emotional material for months. Alexis would be torn between both daughters. Sonny would go nuclear trying to protect Christina. Molly could drown in guilt. Rick would absolutely weaponize the situation. And meanwhile, Christina stays off screen indefinitely while the show buys time deciding whether to recast the role. And the scary part is a coma storyline would also leave the door open for Lexie someday. Because if Christina wakes up later looking different, soap fans already understand how that works. But then there's another theory that honestly feels quieter, yet somehow even sadder. What if Christina simply leaves Port Charles to reunite with Blaze? I know some people may dismiss that idea, but hear me out. The show has barely mentioned Blaze lately, which almost feels intentional to me. Sometimes soaps purposely stop mentioning characters before suddenly reconnecting storylines later. And if Christina has secretly remained in contact with Blaze this entire time off screen, then maybe the writers could use that relationship as an exit path. Especially because Ethan's return hasn't really sparked anything romantic with Christina at all. And that matters. Usually GH drops obvious chemistry hints when they're planning future couples. But with Ethan and Christina, we really haven't seen that emotional momentum building. Which makes me wonder if the writers already knew Christina's exit was coming and intentionally avoided deeper attachments. So maybe Christina eventually realizes Port Charles only brings her pain. Maybe the constant family drama finally exhausts her emotionally. Maybe she decides Blaze represents freedom, escape, happiness outside the Sunny and Alexis chaos. And honestly, guys, that would hurt in a different way. Not tragic, not violent, just emotionally final, because sometimes people don't disappear through death. Sometimes they disappear because they choose themselves. Still, I can't shake the feeling that the Sidwell and Cullum storyline may actually connect to Christina's exit more than viewers realize. This is where things could become terrifying. We already know Sonny is moving into dangerous territory once he learns Cullum may target Rocco. And if there's one thing Sonny has always done, it's retaliate hard when family gets threatened. But that kind of retaliation creates consequences. Enemies don't just stand there and accept defeat. They strike back. And if Sidwell truly wants leverage over Sonny, then targeting Christina suddenly makes horrifying sense. Think about it. Christina is emotionally vulnerable right now. She's exposed, distracted by family conflict, maybe isolated. She's also Sonny's daughter and Alexis's daughter, which makes her the perfect pressure point. If Sidwell wants to stop Sonny from going after Cullum permanently, kidnapping Christina would immediately force Sonny into survival mode. And GH loves disappearance storylines. That's why this theory keeps growing in my mind, because a kidnapping would explain everything at once. Christina vanishes. Sonny becomes obsessed with revenge. Alexis spirals emotionally. Molly blames herself after their conflict. And the show keeps the character technically alive while MANSI exits behind the scenes. But here's the twist. Nobody seems to be discussing enough. What if Christina's disappearance is actually meant to fake her death? Guys, soaps pull this move constantly. Imagine an explosion, a car crash, a warehouse fire connected to Sidwell's operation. Everyone assumes Christina died because no body is found. Sonny launches into war mode. Alexis completely breaks emotionally. Molly carries unbearable guilt after their argument. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Christina could secretly still be alive. And if that happened, the role could remain untouched for months or even years before eventually bringing Lexie back in a shocking return. Honestly, that almost feels like the most soap opera outcome possible, because the truth may be far more complicated than what GH wants viewers to see right now. What really keeps standing out to me is the timing MANSI quietly exits the show, increases danger around Sunny's family. Molly's emotional storyline intensifies. Sidwell becomes more threatening, and Christina suddenly feels emotionally isolated from almost everyone around her. That cannot be coincidence. And I think fans are sensing it too. Something feels off. Something feels unfinished. That's why I genuinely hope this isn't the end of Christina forever. Whether it's Lexie returning someday, a temporary coma storyline, a disappearance, or even a fake death twist, I still believe the character matters too much to erase permanently. But right now, the uncertainty feels real. And honestly, guys, maybe that's exactly what GH wants. So, what do you think really happens next? Does Christina leave town for Blaze? Does Molly accidentally push her sister into tragedy? Does Sidwell target Sunny through Christina? Or are the writers secretly preparing a future return for Lexie that nobody sees coming yet? Because at this point, I honestly don't think anything can be ruled out anymore.